Links are being reshared.
I am replying to work.
Gonna need a baby boot.
Ah. Oh, wrong. I'm all out of sorts. No, don't go into the live stream menu. Oops. My fingers are all weird today.
Hey, David. Hey, Andre. Karen, nice to meet you back. Nice to have you back.
Nice to meet you back. Nice to meet you back. Okay, I finally reposted links as well.
I see Mitch.
Yeah, we almost aborted the stream given the sudden Google issues today, which certainly stressed all of us out because all of us had late Monday work. How many people had Google Docs slides or sheets open with unsaved changes that you decided to leave open until Google came back? That guy. So yeah, we'll keep this generally short. That Google hiccup was very stressful. Yeah, so much of our lives are tied to them. Even Google Assistant wasn't working. Mitch, slide. I don't know if like were the offline options working for people. I don't know because I know it's not even. Like I think slides offline is a little decent. Sorry, sheets offline is a little decent. Docs inconsistent. Slides really inconsistent. I don't know. I'll have to double check. It's okay, Mitch. You're here now, so you can finish your work, quote unquote, later. Whenever that is. No rush. Okay. Yeah, I guess we can start because so we can get back to life. It would be easier to do this if you had two hands.
I don't have two hands. This is Toby.
And this is Rocky.
And this is Sharky. If it's your first time here, welcome to Baduy Pride, a little space on the internet where we talk about anything we want.
This is completely unscripted and not entirely accurate, but at least it's honest. Join as we talk about everything and anything random live.
And if it's not your first time here, thank you so much for joining us again. Our topic tonight is Jaws.
Jaws, the Nice try. Jaws, the board game. So this is actually surprisingly like the third
Mhm.
Jaws game that I saw listed when I was searching on Board Game Geek. So there have been a few released over the years, but this one was released, published by Ravensburger Games, created by, oh my god, I had it in the description,
Prospero Hall,
Prospero Hall.
who surprisingly has a lot of interesting
Games?
games listed in it. He is or her, I'm not sure. In their body of work, including this Villainous.
Mhm.
There's the Shining board game. There's Villainous, Marvel Villainous. Then I also saw a few others that I didn't expect.
I think the best irony of this game is that, okay, it's for 2 to 4 players and ages 12 and
But
up.
the Funko games, yeah.
Ages 12 and up.
Mm-hmm.
Which means that given the original Jaws movie was released in 1975,
Mm-hmm.
then the minimum player threshold are kids who have never really didn't get a chance to see the movie in theaters. And to be fair, this movie is older than both of us. That's a rare thing. So it's a very old. The actual movie is old, but of course it's a classic,
Mhm.
and they've made a game about it. Okay, so Toby, where do you want to begin? And will you have 2 hands?
You want to bring out the components?
Yes, we will. So the Jaws board game.
So the game has
Mm.
has various mechanics, including area movement,
Look, it's the Amityville sign.
card play resolution, hidden movement. It has a modular board, and it makes use of even a trackpad. As one player plays the shark, Bruce, if you know your Jaws lore,
Yes.
while the other 3 players play the human characters in the story.
And then
Each-
if you have fewer than 3 humans, you still have all human characters
Mhm.
active in the game.
Mhm.
So you generally just make decisions together. So the board has an Act 1 side, which shows the entire Amity Island.
Mhm.
But there's also an Act 2. And we'll talk about Act 2 in a bit. Toby, you were starting about it being a hidden movement game.
In an attempt to capture the feel of the movie, the object of the game, if you are playing the shark, is to eat as many swimmers as you can in the first act. And by the second act, try to kill these humans who are trying to attack you.
Or at least destroy our boat.
Whereas if you're playing the humans and there are 3, yay! Your objective is to actually spot and tag the shark during Act 1 by launching what we call barrels at them. In the movie, barrels were used to track the movement of the shark because they would float, so the shark would drag them around, and it allows you to see the shark.
Yep.
In the board game, they act as motion detectors. So if you successfully tag the shark twice with those motion detectors, then you end Act 1 and immediately go to Act 2. The sooner the humans do this in Act 1, the stronger they are because they start with more gear.
Mm-hmm.
But the longer Act 1 takes, that means the shark gets to eat more people, then the more options the shark has in Act 2 when it comes to dealing with the orca, which is the boat.
Okay, so super cute. So we have 3 main characters. First, you have Brody, who is the Black Pawn. He's the police chief, and he doesn't have a boat. So in Act 1, he runs around the island,
Mhm.
and in full iconic movie reference moments, his main tool are the binoculars. So he can stand on a beach, open his binoculars, and if the shark is on the adjacent beach water tile,
It's on that tile. The
then
shark player must announce,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
see me.
which I feel like is very rare given how we play. Like I don't think the sharks are gonna wait at the beach.
However, the swimmers only appear by
At
the
the
beach.
beaches.
And since there are 4 beaches in the island,
There are 4 because they're directions: north, and
Mhm.
then east, and then south.
if
and
you
then
play Brody right,
west.
you are most likely going to spot where Bruce will show up. Brody also is the only person who can gather the barrels from this store, if I remember
Yeah,
correctly,
in the very middle of the island is the store.
And
All
bring it
the
to the-
barrels are there at the beginning of the game.
and bring it to the two possible docks where the other
Quack quack
players
quack quack.
try to.
Toby was gonna say it. I said it first.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So and his other power as Brody is he can close the beach, and by closing the beach,
So you need the token.
it's okay. He can only close the beach when there are no swimmers on it, and once it is closed, it will take 2 triggers before it can open up again.
Mhm.
Because part of the main mechanic is at the beginning of every turn, a new event card is revealed, and that typically will involve 5 swimmers being placed at the different beaches around the map, indicated by the directional compass points of north, west, west, east, and the like.
So true to the movie, you have everything happening as events, everything from cardboard fin hoax to bounty on the shark, or maybe even caught the wrong shark. And these events actually affect the game in different ways. Other than adding swimmers to the board,
Yeah, each card does something.
they can even trigger certain effects like making certain actions free
Mm.
or making certain things worse. Like there's a card that has, I think, instead of just 4 swimmers adding to the board, suddenly 8.
Oh yeah, if you only have a very few swimmers, we had that card come up,
And
I
just
was
like the
scrambling.
movie, there's Michael Brody's birthday where the sun goes out on a boat.
And worse, only Brody can save his son. What the heck? Okay, so that's like generally Brody.
Mhm.
Quint is funny because he's now going around on the little boat, and this we feel was like super extra. Like, did they need to make a boat meeple that fits their one person so that it can move around on a boat in Act 1? Maybe not. But
We
it's
love
super
it.
cool. It's super cool. Because in Act 1, everybody, the 2 characters have boats, but then Brody is running around the island from the inside.
Mhm.
So his Quint's main thing is he launches the barrels.
He's
Okay.
able to use the barrels more efficiently. When he launches the barrels, he can actually launch it even to an adjacent tile, which doesn't sound like much until you realize that when you study the map, there, for example, sorry, I'll cover you. For example, this area, which is number 2. Number 2 is adjacent to the entirety of this area, as well as the entirety of this area. Oops, there, this lower portion. So can you imagine how huge that is in the map that he covers when he launches those barrels?
Yeah, so that's quite big. He's the only one who can launch barrels, as opposed to Hooper, who is the flashier one because he has a speedboat. It's represented by a smaller boat, but he has a speedboat, so he moves 2 spaces per turn, per move action.
Mhm.
He can pick up barrels, and he can give all barrels that he has to Quint in 1 action. And then finally, he
Hey,
has
Jay. Hey, RJ.
the fish finder. And the fish finder basically is like a sonar ping, and you can only look at that tile and all adjacent tiles, and the shark must declare if he is near or not near.
So let's assume the shark was here in this area, and only the shark player knew that.
Yes.
If the fish finder was triggered here in
dock.
area 8,
Yeah.
notice area 8 is adjacent to this area, but not to that area.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, the shark can simply say, "I'm not there." However, let's say the fish finder was triggered here.
In the big space.
Then, since this area still connects to that and it's adjacent, the shark can actually say, the shark has to say,
I'm
"I'm
nearby."
nearby." Which then makes it all the more interesting because the player who's are playing the humans are like, "Oh no, which one? Where is he?"
And then what's funnier is that the shark token, this one, is not played throughout Act 1 unless the human players
Spot
are
it.
able to tag him with the barrel,
Mm.
and then he will surface. And then you will just know where he is for that turn. But beyond that, he will go back into hiding and then move around. So,
The shark board. Oh, there.
so it's tricky. It's tricky. And then Toby's really like, whoever is the shark player will just be writing down all movements on a little card, and then
So
yeah,
the card of the shark player tracks how many barrels have hit him, as well as through the small clip
how many
marks how many
swimmers he
people
has
you've
eaten.
And notice as you increase the number of people you've eaten, the number of shark shark abilities you will have in Act 2 increases. And the number of gear that the humans can use later in the game actually decreases. So you will want to eat everything you can. Let's show that pad, which you were mentioning earlier. So this is the shark tracker. And it opens up to a smaller map, which captures the locations, and a small tracking pad for the locations you go to, where you ate, what person, as well as
It's
what
so
power-ups
weird.
you are using. That way you can actually recreate turns in the later game just to see what happened, or just
Yeah.
to reassure the humans you weren't cheating when you were swimming around and eating people.
Yeah, so I think so. Each human character has 4 actions per turn, which includes moving and all the special abilities we mentioned earlier, and rescuing 1 swimmer. Given we generate maybe 5 swimmers per turn, and each token can at best, takes an action to rescue a swimmer. They disappear very quickly. So it is hard. It is hard to keep track, and the longer you go through Act 1, yeah, the more risks there are. So in our first game that we played over the weekend, I think I lost 8 swimmers or something.
7.
I only had 5 pieces of gear.
I only hit 7 before Act 1 ended.
Yeah, it took a while to tag Toby. So, but it eventually worked out. But the more exciting thing, in true celebrating the movie fashion, is Act 2.
Act 2 uses the other side of the board.
Okay, and this diagram is not very illustrative, only because it is the shadowy remnants of the boat.
If the shark won,
If the shark wins, that's what you're gonna see, because the boat components, guys, components. The boat is composed of these double-sided tiles. So like this is a full boat section that hasn't been damaged, and then you flip it over to show the damaged side, so the water gets bigger, and then you remove the tile entirely.
Let's try to at least mimic some level of the boat.
You want to put the lid down?
No, because I'm using it as support.
Okay.
So there, can you get the other tiles? 2 more tiles of the boat. You were holding one of the front portions earlier.
Yeah. That
one goes there.
Where's that other front? Oh, there.
Yeah.
Okay. And yeah, like we'll just look at this very complicated diagram. What?
But then, find the other tile. So the boat, let's say, would start with that. But then, let's say the one part gets damaged. Yeah, so you can sew it. Crunch. So the boat starts to shrink.
And then this changes like adjacency rules, because suddenly other parts are now adjacent. So it does become a problem. And the shark's 2 win conditions are either to destroy the boat completely or to kill all human players. Whereas the human players can only win by defeating the shark.
The game then introduces the concept of gear. Human players start with gear, which range from different weapons, such as the baseball bat, to much more interesting weapons, of course, such as the rifle. But then you get very specific things that you will, of course, associate to the show, from shark cages to
Chum in the water.
But most importantly, ammo, which allows you to keep your guns and use them again rather than losing them immediately.
Yeah, okay, so realistically, as human player, in the first few rounds of Act 2, you're feeling all brave because you still have guns. But then all the guns are pretty much one hit, unless you have ammo cards, which are part of the gear. So after one shot, you're most likely going to throw your ranged weapons away, and you're gonna come down to melee weapons. And melee weapons don't get thrown away, but they're
Require
melee weapons, so you must be at the spot where you think
Mhm.
the shark is going to appear.
So Act 2 is all about anticipating each other. Each round, 3 cards are drawn, which are called the Resurface Cards, which
Mhm.
identify the 3 possible places where Bruce will rise from the depths to attack.
Ah,
Bruce's goal, as mentioned, was to destroy the ship completely or to eat all 3 humans. So the Bruce player, will want to rise in the areas that benefit him the most, which is a challenge sometimes because the cards that are drawn can affect the effectivity of what the shark will do in that area. Resurface cards, for example, which appear like this one, show the section of the ship where they can rise from. But then you can see here in the fin, that is the defense number of the shark, or the evade number.
Yeah.
So unless the human player rolls more than that number, their attack fails, which isn't that hard to do until you realize these 6-sided dice are a lie because they
Yeah.
only have one.
Ones, twos, and blanks.
They don't have 3 and up. So the most you could roll with 3 dice is 6, and that's assuming you're lucky enough to roll a 6.
Oh wow, I didn't realize it's like so. It's 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, and a
Mhm.
blank.
That die, however, also penalizes the shark player because, as you can see here in the card states how many dice they roll. So sometimes you might find this perfect card that allows you to roll 3 dice,
But it's low evasion.
and that tells the humans that's most likely where the shark's gonna rise.
Yeah.
So he's gonna make sure that he's ready to strike there. So it's all this nice acts of what's the word? Bluffing and trying to read each other to see how you'll manage things. When humans fall into the water, it consumes their actions to climb
Get
back
on the
up,
boat.
forcing them to do nothing but attack if they were lucky enough to have a melee weapon and the shark was in front of them. But then, if the ship starts getting smaller and smaller, more spaces are adjacent, and the shark is allowed to attack all of them the moment they hit the water.
Yeah,
Glorious.
it's a problem. Yeah, it's a problem. So, yeah, it's a very interesting system, and so it still maintains the sort of hidden movement aspect even in Act 2. And it feels like it's a whole different game. You're playing 2 games in a single game.
Yeah.
It's like a mini campaign.
Humans tend to have 5 life, then they die. Our shark,
18 hits to kill him. RJ was asking how much does the game cost typically. Do you know the retail on this?
I don't know, but I was able to get it for really cheap.
Yeah, so yeah, okay, that's not helpful, but yeah, so
Probably around 2-4.
probably over 2,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think. So if you get it on retail, but it's like if you're fans of the movie, this is a great game. Not a lot of franchise games.
Mhm.
Well, franchise games related to like a TV show or a movie come out this well. I was super tense last Saturday playing as the humans. Even though I controlled all 3, it doesn't matter. It never feels like you have enough actions. And
Mhm.
especially in Act 2, when my guns ran out. And then really I'm like, really? I'm with a machete, a bat, and what's my other weapon? Machete, baseball bat, and I forgot what the last weapon was. The basic gear.
It wasn't the track spear.
No, it's
Hammer.
Oh, it's the hammer. I didn't even get to use the hammer, but we were all like, most likely it's gonna surface here, and we're all like standing there. Oh, the thing about humans is that sure, everybody locks in their movements. The shark player determines where he's going to surface. I determine where we're all going to aim, and we also have to mark the spot of the boat where we're going to aim based on the range rules. Melee, it's the same tile. If it's a gun,
You
a
can-
ranged weapon, anywhere.
And some guns even allow you to retrain your aim the moment the shark appears because guns are awesome.
Yeah, so there is that. And then the resurface token is revealed, and then we see what really happens. So if you were targeting an area where the shark didn't appear, which is like most of the first half of my Act 2 game, nothing happens. You don't lose the weapon, but you did nothing. You
Mhm.
did absolutely nothing. So, yeah. So it's a fascinating game. We don't have too many hidden movement games. I think the only other one is probably the pandemic expansion that gives you the
Mhm.
bioterrorist, which we have not actually had a chance to play
Mhm.
at least together. And then because not even like Treasure Island is full hidden movement. Treasure Island, you hide the treasure,
Yeah.
and that player will tease clues about it, but it's not about chasing around. And we've
Mhm.
seen a number of interesting hidden movement games out there. Like there's a Sherlock Holmes Jack the Ripper one
Mhm.
where you're trying to catch him in London, but then totally different experience. But this this was pretty brilliant. This is pretty brilliant.
There's so much love as well in the box itself.
Oh, Toby keeps he pointed this out to me like 5 times during
So
the
you
night.
have the boat, you have a swimmer,
The swimmer from the poster, no less.
you have the buoy. Hey
Boy.
boy. And look at that! It's a terrifying shark.
Looks like a fat shark.
Mm-hmm. And then oh my god. It's such a good game. So yeah, that is Draws the Board Game, which um, was such a marvel to play. Was such an experience. I honestly was not expecting to enjoy this as much as I did.
Yeah, I mean,
Most
like,
of the time, movie translations or movie spin-off games aren't as awesome,
yeah,
but this one caught us off guard.
super, super, super well done. And then, like, what's this? Yeah, please reverse to live. Okay. Then, uh, and it's just very evocative. And this is funny because when you go to Ravensburger's website, uh, they make a lot of like super kiddie games. It's
Mhm.
like distractingly kiddie inventory, and then like really these are the people who publish Jaws. But wow, wow indeed, this game was a lot of fun. Tips for everyone. Okay, and it really depends on what you want to do. In Act One, as the humans, you cannot admittedly, I feel like you cannot have a turn go by where you don't rescue a few swimmers.
Mhm.
It's like curing diseases in pandemic.
Yes.
If you don't cure the disease, things are gonna get really, really bad. So it's super important to manage your swimmers. I found closing the beach to be super powerful. If you're able to close a beach, then you limit the shark's targets, and then you can seed that area with barrels so that you can catch the shark's movement. Um, and then and make sure to use all your special abilities.
The box is absorbing.
Yeah,
all the
I know,
light.
right? So
We're
if I
like
put it
super
down.
dark.
Okay, but if you, that's why I keep coming forward. So if so, the fish finder tried to find a way to use it.
Mhm.
I didn't really use the binoculars, admittedly, because Brody is the same token who can close the beach.
Mhm.
But then juggling between Quince and oh my god, the other guy. In terms of them,
Hopper.
Hopper getting the barrels and then shooting the barrels around. That was like my main thing. I got most of the barrels off the island to try to catch Toby moving, and it helped. It super helped. So that's like I think that's like my act one. What's your act one for the shark?
Um, it's tricky to be spotted, but don't
Be afraid.
don't waste a turn not eating because each time you get spotted, and you can only get spotted twice. Act one ends, so you might as well have gotten caught eating people because that at least bumps up the abilities you'll have by Act two.
And typically, the shark can only eat one person per turn unless he has a special ability.
There's that one special ability you can use wherein you
Eat
have a
food?
feeding frenzy and eat everyone in a
at a
single
beach.
space. So that allows you to time that when you can attack a lot of people at the same time. There are 4 special abilities you can use once during Act 1. Among them are the ability to dash 3 spaces for 1 movement, not cause any movement in the motion sensors. The other one was not to be spotted by the binoculars or the fish finder.
Oh my gosh.
So having these abilities can prove to be useful, but you have to map out when you use them because part of the gameplay is you're not allowed to say which one you use.
Yeah, you just say, I played a token.
And if
terrible.
you think
It's
about it,
absolutely terrible.
that's because you might eat, for example, a space with 3 people. Then the human players are thinking, that's all his actions. He's stuck there. But you might have used Feeding Frenzy for that. Or maybe you ate the 3 people with the actions, but then you use the cannot be detected tile. So when they now throw the fish finder, they're not there? Wait, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So people are asking, do you need to be a fan of the movie to play the game?
I don't think so.
Totally not.
But you won't appreciate it as much. Because if you just look at it as it's a beach and there's a shark attacking, then you'll feel like ang tatanga naman ng mga tao. Why do they keep going to the water?
Yeah.
But that's exactly how it was in the movie. In fact, it was a huge plot point in the movie that they didn't want to close it because it was the holidays.
Oh, that was the worst. We got the event 4th of July, which even though I had closed a beach, it opens all the beaches at the beginning of the turn and like, you terrible people, what are you doing? And then true enough, they start running to the beach. You're like, let's swim.
I will say, however, that if you haven't taken the chance to watch Jaws, you should.
It's a great movie.
Despite its age.
I'm sure it'll hold up.
Despite the lack of CG, it is better than most of the other shark movies out there.
At least see the first. You don't necessarily have to see all the Jaws movies. They're like variable.
There were never movies after the first. No.
Okay, we're going that route. All right.
No, the ones that followed were just terrible, especially Jaws 3D. But
just stick to the first.
The first is so worth it.
Which is this?
The horror and the tension building is classic. The way they use music, the build up, and even the personality of the characters were very well thought of.
And of course, obligatory, play the soundtrack while you're playing the game for extra tension. It's all over on YouTube.
Better than Sharknado.
Oh, Sharknado is this is apples and oranges. Because Sharknado is ultimately a comedy.
And Sharknado's claim to fame was it was absurd in that way. So it was fun to watch because of its absurdity. Jaws is fun to watch because you'll never look at the beach the same way again.
It's seriously terrifying. And it's most of the terror is not even seeing the shark. I think that's the key thing here, which the game really tried to celebrate. That you don't see the shark for most of the game, and when you do, it's Act 2. Act 2 is hard to really give advice on. From a human side, it is I think don't be afraid to double up. In my first few actions, I was like spreading out. Like I had one, because there are 3 possible places the shark can surface. I would target one of each and like, let's do this. And what would happen is only one human character gets to act because the other 2 didn't have targets. So don't be afraid to double up, make a calculated guess, and have everybody swarm the shark. Because I feel like it's still the most efficient way to take the shark down. You have to throw everything at it right away. If not, it's going to prolong the game.
I know I struggled with Act 2 because it brought the dice into the picture, and that meant luck. So I'm terrible with that. I did have a few instances wherein I attacked, and it was literally a because the dice didn't score damage, or
it was a fish kiss,
or it scored just 1 point of damage. And I'll roll 3 dice, 1 damage. So yeah, that's like but for people who love the dice rolling, it adds to the tension. It's exciting. I wish the shark had more awesome moves, but interestingly, they kept it still closer to real. So there was, real at least has how the movie portrayed it. So it didn't have any super moves that had the shark doing martial arts or anything like that. So it's nice how it does make you feel like even if you're the attacker, it's still got its own sense of tension.
And it felt pretty balanced. It felt pretty balanced all throughout, whether for the human characters or for the shark player. it was hard to tell in both acts
Mm.
how it was going. Like if it were really like, are we really winning? Are we? Is
And-
this thing moving
And
forward?
even when I like in Act One, I really felt I was having the advantage. I was scared the whole time that you will catch me too soon,
Mm.
and that was annoying me because I kept like, okay, do I go here? Do I go there? Ah, that's so obvious if I do that. He'll probably pick it up, and it's crazy how it does that. Act Two, on the other hand, as the shark, you might feel limited by the resurface cards, but then you realize it's the poker moment of the game we're in. So there's one that gives you 3 dice, and then these other cards give you only 2 dice. But those are parts of the ship that will be destroyed easier.
Mm.
And then maybe you have a card wherein if you destroy this object, then it allows you to destroy the next part automatically as well. So it then makes it interesting to consider what options to choose, especially when you know the human player is only working with what they can see as information.
Yeah, and I only started with 5 extra gear apart from the 2 basic gear that each person has.
Mhm.
It goes by so quickly. It's I think in the first 3 rounds of Act 2, I was down to like my basic items.
Mhm.
It's like no.
But you will never start Act 2 without items because all players start with 2 basic items, which
Yeah.
is a ranged and a melee.
One
weapon.
range, one melee.
So you will never start a game with like you have all the ammo and none of the guns. That's not going to happen. So it's a well thought out, well designed game to think about it.
Yeah, so that's Jaws. This was surprising, and we only admittedly only played it once so far, but wow, super enjoyed it, super enamored by it, and looking forward to playing it again. We're speculating on ways to play it online with friends. We would just need it would have to be the shark player is at our location, and then the human player. Other human players would be people who have scans of the cards at least, so that they know how that works, and scans of the character reference sheets.
Board Game Geek has 2 unofficial solo mode options for this game. We're in, of course, the solo player. The automated player is the shark. One is an app, and the other one is a table that uses dice. So that's an interesting thing that exists as well. Yeah, but that is Jaws.
Ta-da!
So I guess any last few questions? Battleships, but with sharks. In some ways, because you are trying to read and calculate where the other player is and see if you can catch them and stop them before.
Although the human characters' movements are super transparent, it's like because they got meeples on the board, it's only the shark who's hidden. Whereas in battleships, you can't see each other's ships.
Mhm.
So it's tricky in that sense. At most, you like the humans during Act 2 will allocate their actions and then reveal, but
Mhm.
that's not much. Um,
Although the shark is not aware what gear the human.
yeah, you don't know what gear I have, and then like I really wanted to make better use of the chum. The chum eliminates one of the resurface tokens.
Because the shark's drawn to the places where the chum is, so
Yeah, so
removes one
it
element.
narrows the choices, and that would be good for a ganging up moment. But it totally didn't work that way for me in that turn. But yay, I won. Okay, the one game.
So yeah, that is Jaws, the tabletop board game, and yes, fish teeth.
So many variations on these kisses. Okay.
But that's all the time we have for today's episode. Thank you so much for joining us. We had fun, and we hope it was fun for you too.
Arr. All right. If you have questions or suggestions for future episodes, fill up the Google form at bit.ly Baduy Pride Ideas, assuming Google is working. But since YouTube is working, Google is working, Google Sheets is working. All right. And then you can follow us on Twitter, Altobi Shade, RG Sunico.
You can also check out our blog, baduypride.com, for all the previous episodes and stuff about us.
Feel free to continue the conversation in the comments below. What other movie tie-in games did you enjoy or felt that it captured the sense of the movie very well?
Mhm.
Let us know in the comments. There's an upcoming Dune Imperium deck building game that I don't know if we're going to be excited about it. We will wait.
And then the same designer designed The Shining as a board game as well.
Yeah,
So
how do you make a board game out of The Shining? What is that?
I'm wondering if it's the same system. It's
Oh.
the mansion instead of the island.
And then hidden movement.
And then you have Jack going around.
That's an option.
And
All
then
right.
we have cards to a bloody elevator. Okay, go on.
Another movie you should all watch, apparently. Be sure to subscribe for notifications, whether on Facebook or YouTube, so you don't miss our next live stream. Once again, I'm Rocky.
And I'm Toby.
And this is Baduy Pride. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Good night.